are today. So those folks provide the services to our clients across the board. They come in, they get to know who you are, what your needs are, what is it you're looking for, and actually configure and develop solutions that are best fit for you. So I would like to do a quick round of introductions before we get started. As I mentioned, I'm Dina Shukam. I'm a Director of Digital Strategy at Salesforce, so I primarily support state and local government across the nation, primarily dedicated to the West, so big preference to be here in Hawaii especially. And I essentially work hand in hand with our sales team to help our clients, our prospective clients, to put together strategies and roadmaps and help them drive their modernization efforts forward. Oftentimes we come into the room, our clients know that, hey, we need to modernize, we need to do something, we just don't know where to begin. So that's where I come in. I do a lot of active listening, get to know you a little bit more, and see how we can potentially support you in the future. So I'm joined here on the stage with our amazing partners. So let's do a quick round of introduction. Maybe Dina, let's start with you and go down the row.
Okay. Hello, my name is Dina Tierney. I am the founder CEO of Pacific Point. We're a Honolulu-based Salesforce consulting firm.
And my name is Eduardo Parra. I lead delivery and sales for StackNexus, a Salesforce system integrator.
Check. All right. Eric Chen. I lead our Accenture work here in Hawaii. Probably one of the worst known, biggest companies in the world here in Hawaii, but yes, we do have a presence here.
Steve Sakata, I'm Vice President at eWorld, responsible for business development, and eWorld's been here for 23 years.
Great. Thank you for the introductions. You know, I was looking at all of our bios. I think in total we have 45 plus years of experience here on stage, so amazing. I'm looking forward to learning from you all and see what best practices, lessons learned you've gathered through your experiences and share those with the audience. So let's jump into the questions. Yeah, you're all ready? So starting off with Eduardo. In response to the pandemic, many industries have had to adapt, especially government. Offices shut down, workforce are at home now. From your experience, what role did technology play to help government adapt, not only for the short term, but also build solutions that are sustainable in the long term as well?
Yeah, so I think that's an excellent question, and one that, frankly, I didn't recognize the impact until towards the end of, you know, the heart of the pandemic, right? Where you kind of look back a little bit and you realize how much was accomplished in what a short amount of time. And what we found was really that, you know, when governments and you know, ask brick and mortar to shut down, services still have to be delivered. And so a lot of that red tape that existed for folks, both in the technical and the business side, suddenly evaporated overnight because they had to, right? People had to continue to deliver services. And so oftentimes they turned to platform. Very often they turned to Salesforce. And so the power of, I think I heard somebody say earlier, you know, standing something up in 6 months and how that was, you know, unheard of. You know, in the state of California, we had a few use cases where they had, you know, virtual field offices stood up in a matter of weeks, right? And they were able to intake, you know, requests from constituents out there. So I think that speed, that time to market, time to value, right, became very evident very quickly. The other thing I'd say too is that, you know, oftentimes, especially in our industry, the magnitude of the project sometimes gets equated with the magnitude of the value to both the business, IT, and the public. And I think part of what the pandemic has shown is that that's not always the case. You can have what's on the outside perceived as a relatively small project, right, where you have 5, 10 people, make a significant impact to the public and business alike. You get some very transformational, very important changes that happen quickly. And you can iterate off of it, continue, et cetera, right? But I think just how much can be done, how quickly, you know, with kind of a lean, mean team sometimes, right? And when you're under the gun a little bit, is something that really sticks out in my mind. And I think I'll carry forward for quite some time. And many of the clients that we work with day in and day out have now kind of shifted the way they think and are almost expecting that. They're almost expecting that, you know, it takes 6 to 9 months to get something up and running. So now it's kind of, be careful what you wish for, right? Because now that's kind of the expectation at times. But it's exciting. It's definitely an exciting time.
Steve, what are your thoughts? Anything to add?
During the pandemic, we saw a lot of our clients close their offices, as Eduardo said, and we got phone calls asking there's no line outside, we have to go online, right? So we had to move a lot of our clients' capability from being in line to online. During that time, the delivery cycles were no longer 3 months, they were 3 weeks. We had to turn things around in 3 weeks. And then throughout the pandemic, a lot of our clients lost 30% of their staff. For whatever reason, COVID, I think some people thought it was a good opportunity to retire. So our implementation to use artificial intelligence and virtual agents to try and take the brunt of the public's questions, because there was no office open, there was no staff. The virtual agents were able to answer questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then we would be on site with the client working to make the virtual agents smarter every day. I think a lot of talk today about being agile and doing iterative development. So we were doing that during the peak of the pandemic on a daily basis with our clients. So we'd enter the week with a bunch of problems and we'd exit the week with more capability out of the AI and virtual agents. And a couple byproducts came out of that I want to share with all of you guys. One, the virtual agents work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So a lot of our clients were able to go to their sponsors and stakeholders and say, oh, by the way, we're now open around the clock, even on weekends, holidays, and that was well received. Also, we found an interesting behavior that the silver tsunami of staff was very happy to sit down and tell everything they knew to AI and the computer. And so during COVID, we were able to capture a lot of their knowledge in the virtual agent. They weren't really, before COVID, willing to sit down with John or Jane and pass down their knowledge, but for whatever reason, sitting down with a developer and knowing that their knowledge is going in a computer, they were happy to do that. So we were able, during the pandemic, to capture a lot of tacit knowledge into the virtual agent, and their knowledge now lives on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the virtual agent. So as you know, this pandemic has made us the need to pivot and be agile and do things in 3 weeks, not 3 months. There is a lot of benefits that came out of it, and we hope to take some of these services, including the virtual agent, into the future. One other byproduct is the virtual agents are very Kupuna friendly. You don't need a computer at home, you don't need even to have a smartphone, you just pick up and you talk to the computer. We can hook it up to the databases and provide them, status of their benefits or claims, and so again, we're seeing a lot of benefits for Hawaii's Kupuna.
I love that, right? Oftentimes we focus so much on the technology and we say everyone wants to use their mobile phone for everything, right? But then we lose sight of those that don't have that preference, that actually prefer calling in or coming into the office, right? So those virtual agents can meet individuals where they are. They can still call in, right? They're still talking to the virtual agent in this case, but you're really supporting them no matter what their preference is, whether it's a mobile phone or actually calling in. Thank you for the responses. I think this came up actually when the state of Nevada was speaking earlier today about their journey with Salesforce, right? They mentioned an old system they had in place. I know we all are probably familiar with the ERP world where a solution's in place for 10, 20, sometimes 30 plus years. So it seems very daunting when we talk about modernizing such legacy mainframe-based systems, right? It's just almost too much to even think about. So we tend to just say, it's okay, it's working, let's just keep it going, right? Keep the lights on and keep pushing forward. But it's so important now more than ever to revisit those legacy systems and say, okay, well, we've got this solution in place today. How do we modernize bits and pieces of this system and be able to essentially, at one point in time, hopefully retire it, and turn the lights off there, but take a very incremental approach to do so, right? I know, Dina, you've been involved in some very large, complex implementations here on island and off island. So would love to learn from you, what are the steps you typically take with your clients to modernize such legacy, cumbersome experiences or implementations, that is?
Yes, thank you. So yes, legacy system migrations are quite daunting. I think they are intimidating in some respects because there's so much built up business logic, things that users don't even realize are there and have been there or incrementally added over 10, 15, 20 plus years. And so what we like to do actually with any project is try to take a business process driven approach, try to think about the business process that our users have, look at their personas. We talked about that earlier in one of the sessions. But I think legacy system migrations require an extra level where we're looking at data, we're looking at the legacy system data and doing different types of analysis that you may not normally do with just a business process. Because the data will start to tell you things and we'll start calling out things to our customers saying, you know, your data is telling us that this is actually what you were doing. Is that right? How should we do it going forward? So that data analysis and also looking at the existing system and really having your SI teams and your technical teams and your business teams diving into the existing technology and identifying what really is needed and what can maybe change and evolve. And so I think that full re-engineering is really needed. And like I said, just only looking at business process and asking users and talking to users and seeing it is one thing, but definitely a must to look at the cobwebs and all the things that have been intertwined and built up over time is extremely important, because that's where I think legacy systems fall short, is you'll migrate what you thought was there and all of a sudden go, oh wow, there was this big thing that we missed. There was this big piece of functionality that had been sitting there this whole time that people forgot about or didn't realize until that scenario came up. And so I think that's a really important thing. Kind of to add a little bit to that, one of the questions we get as it relates to legacy system migrations is, what staffing do I need now? Because our clients are used to the staffing that they had for the last 15, 20 plus years to support the business and the technology that was in place all that time. And so the question is, well, what do I need now when I start moving to Salesforce? And what we tell our customers is you definitely want to have a Salesforce administrator identified early in your legacy system migration so that you have someone who knows that I'm going to be accountable for this application, both from a business perspective as well as from a technology perspective. Have them involved in the actual migration, have your data people involved in that so that they start to know where things are going to be mapped over to and they're ready to support the system. And it is incremental, because as you start going live and more things start happening, you start to figure out what kind of support needs you'll have on your team. And so I think that's a really important thing. And I would say we've had a public sector client, actually ag, I'll give them props. They spoke this morning, and they actually turned some of their business users into true administrators of the application. And they know that system inside and out, behind the scenes, all the admin functions, set up. They know where to find code that's been broken. And so I really want to commend many of those customers who have just said, I'm going to take these business users and make them experts in the system. So anyways.
I love that, right? That's kind of the power of the platform, is really anyone can pick it up and configure as they like, right? So it doesn't need to be someone that is trained on the technology, that knows how to code, right? So it's all about drag and drop, very simple, straightforward, even for business users to be able to adopt it and actually make it their own. So thank you for that. Eduardo, what do you think? What steps do you typically take?
Yes, I mean, I think it's very similar in nature. I think use case-driven approach, business-driven approach is certainly something that folks center on, and I think many of our clients are expecting that these days. The other thing I may add on there as well is we oftentimes will talk with our clients around what that transitional technology or transitional set of architectures will look like, right? So this is your end state, n number of years from now, but what is it going to look like to get there? Right, so that it becomes a little less daunting, and you can, kind of illustrate and discuss what that's going to look like along the way. And then the other thing I'll add as well is we're seeing a rapid increase of the use of RPA as kind of a back bridge into legacy to get people to that end state. Right. So as an example, let's say, we have a department right now actually that we're working with where they've had they've been partially on a Salesforce platform from a customer-facing perspective. They're moving it now in-house to their internal consumers. But before, actually as part of that initial transitionary state, they had an RPA bot kind of writing into their legacy application so that they didn't have to kind of force the adoption on both external and internal users alike. And so it buys time to have those complex conversations, not only around adoption, user experience, change management, but also a really focused effort on that data migration, because it is complex. I mean, especially when you're talking about mainframe, sometimes it's just the daunting nature of it makes it, let's wait till next year, right? And so, but if you can set kind of a set of transitional states along the way, you can kind of eat around the edges. So I think in the past several years, there's been sort of what I would qualify as a kind of sharpening of the approach to modernizing legacy applications. And a lot of it's powered by, Salesforce platform and just how quickly you can stand that up, and you don't have to rebuild the entire application from scratch and migrate and do all of that at once, right? You can eat around the edges with a level of kind of diligence and sophistication where it's not always going to be as difficult to adopt for folks. But the RPA, I'd say, is one of the biggest changes, or not changes because it's been around for a little bit, but the adoption of it, right? I mean, I think that's been sort of at least in a lot of our clients, kind of a game changer for how it's almost kind of made it a little bit easier for folks to say, yeah, that's fine. If you're just going to keep writing into my legacy application for another 6 months, 12 months, and we can go live, let's go live. Right? We don't have to drag it out because we can't migrate all the data. So I would say those two things certainly come top of mind when we talk about legacy transformations.
I love that. I think one thing usually I bring up when mainframe or legacy system is mentioned, right, 20-plus-year-old system in place, I say, look, we don't have to replace it all today, right? Let's take small steps towards that end goal. Let's wrap around this mainframe, at least improve that front-end experience. Let's improve the user experience, and then slowly chip away at this very large mainframe effort, right? So that's really the intent here. Thank you both. And typically when we talk about digital transformation, I mean, the term to me seems a little overwhelming when I say digital transformation. What does that really mean, right? So a lot of times we tend to focus more on the technology. And yes, that's a big part of it. Actually modernizing your technology, that's part of the transformation. But I think Christine earlier today mentioned the people and the processes, right? Let's put our shoes or ourselves in the shoes of the users, of our stakeholders, to really understand who are they? What are their needs, right? How will their day-to-day life be impacted by this modernization, right? So Eric, I'd love to hear from you, from your experiences over the years. How do you typically approach digital transformation and make sure you're investing time up front in the people and processes in addition to the technology?
Yeah, Dina, I mean, I love the question and I love the focus sort of throughout the day, right? And I've heard Bob mention it, I've heard Nevada mention it. And I view it as kind of correlated to almost renovating a house, right? A lot of us live in aging homes in Hawaii, and just imagine if you went to work one day and there was a team that was going to go renovate your house, and you came back and it was completely different, right? You don't know where the kitchen is, you don't know where the bathroom is. How would you feel? Right? So I always kind of think about that when I think about users who are using systems. You need to show them the plans. You need to kind of show them the progress along the way, and then just kind of bring them through the entire way, right? And so when I think about that, right, I really kind of think about 3 recommendations that I like to kind of advise on, when thinking about kind of change management. One is, first of all, just acknowledge that the criticality of it, right? Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. I mean, I've been guilty of it myself sometimes when we, go to put together proposals for clients, and we know like, wow, this thing is going to be just probably too expensive for these guys. Where can we cut and save on some cost, right? And we look at OCM, we're like, oh, well, how important is that? Can we cut there? And I have to fight with myself, my team a lot of times, just to say like, guys, it doesn't have to be over kind of engineered, but there does have to be a very specific strategy that's going to work for the client, right? You do have to kind of understand the client and how they're going to receive it. Secondly, I always try to advise on identifying those kind of change champions or super users upfront, right, early in the process, so they get involved early on, and they're not just just dropping it kind of at them towards the end of it. There's one story there. I've got some colleagues here who work for one of our clients where we did years ago this customer 360 degree type project, and they wanted to utilize at the time a newer innovative type approach to it using design thinking, right? Users came in, stakeholders from all the relevant areas. They really had a blank slate to kind of to start with, and imagine and kind of talk about just what they go through on a daily basis, what data would be valuable for them to have, and just kind of go wild a little bit, right? I mean, it does have its repercussions, right? I mean, you don't get to control kind of the budget of the design and the build and the testing and all that as much, but you know what? They were so amazingly happy with the end result. It almost took like no, I mean, not no UAT, but I mean, that was just such a streamlined process because they were so involved from the beginning. It was really their baby from the start, that it was, that just made it so much easier. And then finally, the last thing I'll say is just, make it fun, right? Make it fun for these guys. Work can be hard sometimes, it can be grueling, but sometimes it could just be little things, little tchotchkes, little giveaways. I remember this one project that we did. It was actually a Salesforce project many, many years ago for a healthcare client. And, we developed a brand around it. And, throughout the training, sessions, we had, branded coffee mugs, branded notebooks, branded pens, everything, right? And people were very excited to do that. And then as well as making it competitive, right? We had a leaderboard to say how many minutes of training kind of videos people went through. And people get excited when they see their name on a list, and they're, they want to spend a little more time and try to show up a little bit better, right? So those are kind of the three things I've got.
I like that last one. Make it fun, right? Who doesn't like fun? Thank you, Eric. Steve, what do you think? What do you typically do to help clients beyond putting the technology in place, right? More focusing on the soft side of things, the people, the processes that will be impacted.
Yeah, so you're right, Dina, the digital transformation, it can conjure a lot of happiness, innovation, a lot of fear. One thing eWorld in our 23 years that we've learned is we strive first to have good relationship with the client. We want to be a trusted partner to the client. And then when we enter a project, we really, I think like Eric said, we look for that champion. We look for the subject matter expert in the client. We make sure they're indoctrinated into the team. And really, his house analogy, I like to use food analogy. So we sit down with the client and the subject matter experts, and we ask them, hey, what do you guys want to eat? Because we can, with Salesforce platform, we can cook up a lot of solutions for you, but we don't want to come to the table with like a predetermined menu, and then you don't eat it, right? There's a lot of preference out there. So we kind of sit down with them and figure out what do they want to eat, so then we can go and design something that they're ready to eat, they're ready to consume. It has the flavor, it has all of the things that they're comfortable with. So that's one of our biggest strategies. And then also in change, what we find is that same champion, they know the organization, they know how much technology we can bring and how far the organization can bend to technology without breaking it. And that's, we rely heavily on those subject matter experts. And then lastly, in our company, we have an extreme reverence for the staff, the client staff, and their existing processes and their existing operations. So we sit down with them and we almost go through their processes and their operations, and I'm not trying to be too dramatic, but we document them as business flows, and we try to revere them. Because as we go through the project, the business, the digital transformation, we may actually have to adjust at different work streams what victory is, right? So we might come into this work stream and do quite a bit of work, and we're going to declare victory here. Different work stream, it's really just the beginning part, declare victory there. And every point where we kind of put the flag down, we go back to their staff, and the staff immediately picks up the process. They come to save the day with their operations, and they deliver the solution, to the client. So it's really a relationship between technology and the staff and their existing processes and operations, and it's a partnership. We're not there to replace every process, every piece of operations, and make the staff members, obsolete. So we really look for where does this line come to, and where can we declare victory with the client.
I like that. And I like the no set menu walking into the door, right? Let's listen, let's understand what is the need here, right? And then offer the right meal depending on their needs, right? So I like that a lot. Thank you. I think we have some time. Let's do a quick rapid round. One final question for you all. We'll just top of mind, what comes up, just share it with the audience. And the question is, if we have an audience member today, they're interested in modernizing, they're not quite sure where to begin, what to do, what is that one recommendation you have for them? Go to the left, yeah.
All right. Well, we're into analogies today, so I like to think about Salesforce and the process of getting started on Salesforce like a fitness or a health journey, so opposite of food maybe. And you always have to begin, right? You have to start. Getting out of bed the first day, going to the gym the first day, it's the biggest and most important step. So find that first step and take that first step. And then you've got to continue, right? You've got to continue to do that so that you can see the results. You're not going to go to the gym one day and be like, hey, I'm super fit, right? So this takes time and effort, and the same thing with your own health, right? You've got to keep investing in it, keep developing your teams, and keep looking for those incremental improvements, which has been the theme of the day. And then you'll start seeing some bigger and bigger results.
So now I'm trying not to make an analogy, but so I'll make one anyways. So I guess for those of you who've, I think Teddy's Burgers does a similar thing around here, but In-N-Out in California, right? They do something and they do it very well, right? And so similar for new departments, new agencies, right? Kind of that start small, whether it's 10 users, 15 users, whatever that business case is driving, right? If it's core CRM or whatever that use case is, and you can get it off the ground, that success will breed success. Like I can almost promise that. And that's because people get used to it, and then we've talked about it, adoption, enablement, right, training folks, and you start to get those super users, right, or you start to get that business that says, hey, I love this, like I can tell you I want X, and in 2 weeks you made it happen, right, and so then it kind of feeds into itself, and then it's momentum. So I think kind of along the same lines, like just get it off the ground, start small, do something and do it very, very well. Don't try to boil the ocean overnight, right? All of those other sayings. And that's really gonna get it going in the right direction. Because the reality is you don't know what you don't know yet, right? We don't know where we may be in 6 months. We try to plan, but allowing for that space, that safe space to adjust as needed without kind of fear of failure is a really powerful thing. So I would kind of echo that a little bit as well.
All right, no more analogies for me, but I do have a bit of a riddle for you, I guess, right? So I'll leave you with this. So as a boss told me, some time ago, right? When it comes to modernizations, you can't have everything, right? So if you had to choose between 3 things, you can usually only have 2, right? Between it being good, fast, and cheap. Right? You can usually only have 2 of those 3 things, right? So it can be good and fast, probably won't be cheap, right? It can be good and cheap, probably won't be fast, right? And around it goes. So I'll leave you with that.
All right, I'm sorry if I used the food analogy, but no, I think my thought for all of you as you go through your digital transformation is, I think we've heard a lot about it today. I'm remembering what Wendy said in her HMSA presentation. They started off and they're continuing to fold in more and more functionality into the platform. And that would be my closing advice for everyone here is, Salesforce, it's a powerful platform. So embrace the power of the platform. The more processes, applications, functionality that you can fold into the system, your data is in one place, right? The data is also in a low-code, no-code database. So you don't need a DBA to extract your data. And then as the Salesforce platform grows, whether it's Tableau or AI or virtual agents or other services, it's all connective tissue in the platform. So the technology side of me, we like to integrate things. We'll take something old and something new and something not invented yet, and we try to stitch it all together. That's fun for the technology guys. It's not fun for clients. Because every time you have to integrate to an external system, a legacy system, or a cloud system, or you have one of everything, all those integrations introduce very complex interconnections. It creates a security challenge for your security people. So I would really have you guys go back, work with your technology team, and look at how can you harness the power of the platform to make things simple, to have your data in one place. And all these services are connective tissue, and you don't need a security certificate to get to Tableau. You don't need a security certificate to get to a virtual agent. You reduce all of that complexity. And that's really, as technology guys, we like the complexity, but working with the businesses and looking at cost, that consolidation and really embracing the power of the platform can increase your productivity and save you significant amount of dollars and reduce your security risk. So that's what I would share with everyone.
That's great, thank you. We heard it from Nevada earlier today as well, right? I mean, they spent 6 months putting in the work, learning about their processes, their people, what their needs are, how can we modernize, and they realized, we have an opportunity here to hit pause. Let's think this through, right? Who are the users? What are their personas? What are their needs? And actually spend the time up front to have a full understanding of what is it they're in need of today and for the future. So they really did maximize the value of the investment they're making in the platform today, really leaning in a little bit on, okay, you know what, we realize we actually need some financial components replaced as well. We need some outreach, we need integrations, right? So it's about working with your partners, having those conversations up front to truly deliver a meal at the end of the day that is what you're looking for, right? So I feel like we can go on and on here today, but I want to take a moment and thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for all the great work you're doing on island, off island, and they're sticking around, folks. So if you have questions after the session, tag them down. They're happy to talk to you all and have a conversation. So thank you all so much.